All right, y'all, let's talk about Egyptian achievements. So one of the first ones that you probably are familiar with is hieroglyphics, and it was one of the first writing systems. It was in that group of first writing systems ever created, and it kind of like evolutionized from cuneiform with Mesopotamians. As we know, that was the very first writing system, and then the Egyptians kind of just learned from the Mesopotamians and came up with their own writing system. Like you can see in the picture, it was carved into stone or other hard materials. And then later they invented papyrus, which is a type of really tough and durable paper that's made from reeds. And what they do is they just press layers of reeds together and kind of like pound them, and it ends up making this sheet of paper. And it was really important to have this tough, durable paper because of the climate in Egypt. It helped it stay good so that people could continue to read it and actually be able to see what it said. And then when they moved from carving it into stone to writing it on the papyrus, they would then use brushes and ink to write. So each symbol represented, it could represent more than one sound in the Egyptian language. So, for example, if you look over, you can see that C and K have the same symbol. U and W have the same symbol. So people just had to be really good at trying to figure, like, looking at all the other letters in the word to make sure that they were getting the right word. And just to make it even more confusing, hieroglyphics could be written vertically or horizontally, and then it also could be written right to left or left to right. And so it was nice to have that flexibility, but like I said, it made it really difficult when it came time to read it. They also had this thing called the Rosetta Stone. You probably know the Rosetta Stone as the online way to learn a different language. But this is where they got their name from. So historians had a really hard time figuring out what exactly was written in hieroglyphics. And as we know, like we just learned, because it could be written horizontally, vertically, left to right, or right to left, that poses some problems. But in 1799, a French soldier discovered the stone that's pictured here to the left. And what it is, it's a huge stone slab, and it had hieroglyphics inscribed on it. It also had Greek and a later form of Egyptian writing. And then because of the information was all the same, they were able to figure out what the hieroglyphics said because they could understand the Greek. And so then they were able to translate the hieroglyphics and figure out what the symbols represented with the letters and stuff like that. So it was kind of cool. With Egyptian texts, the papyrus, like I said, it didn't decay in Egypt's dry climate, which was really important and also good for us and historians later when they're trying to learn about the culture and the lives of the Egyptians. And it also allowed government records, medical manuals, and other science texts to survive. And they were even able to find a literary work called the Book of the Dead, which was obviously written about the afterlife. So they also had really cool temples, and not only were they famous for the hieroglyphics, but also their architecture of the pyramids, which we've talked a bunch about, and massive temples. Many of the temples shared really similar features like sphinxes or obelisks and huge gates. Sphinx were imaginary creatures with the bodies of lions and the heads of other animals or even a human. You probably are picturing the same one everybody pictures when they think about the Sphinx, with the body of the lion and the head that look like kind of the pharaoh. And then these would be lined up leading to the temples. Then obelisk was a tall four-sided pillars that had a pointed top. The temples were really lavish and had a whole bunch of decorations and stuff like that, such as the Karnak temple, which you'll see some pictures in a second. And then the columns are also covered in different paintings and hieroglyphics. So you can see the sphinxes in that bottom right picture. You can, and then in the tall picture to the left, you can see all the like pictures carved into it. So like really intricate and really cool. When it came to Egyptian art, they were very lively and colorful scenes, and they were often painted or carved into the walls of temples and tombs. So, sorry, y'all. I'm doing all these while I'm cold, or have my cold. So, if I'm breathing heavy, it's just because talking is literally taking all the breath out of me. But the Egyptians used canvas or papyrus or also pottery, plaster, and wood for their art. Only kings, priests, and other important people could enter the tombs or the temples where these scenes were often created. So, usually, only a couple of people ever saw the art. Not many other, like, everyday people got to see these great works of art. And most of them included scenes that were really important historical events, religious rituals, parts of their everyday life, and farming and hunting. And you can see some of those photos right there. More on art. It was very distinctive, and the heads and the legs were only seen from the sides, while the upper body and the shoulders were shown straight on. And any important figures that was in the artwork, they would be shown as a lot bigger compared to the other people, or maybe even animals that were in the photo, and you can see that in this picture to the left. And then their animal artwork was also very realistic, and you can kind of get an idea of that based off the jackal head that you can see in the photo there. Here's the Temple of Karnak that I was talking about a couple slides ago. It's one of the great temples, and it had a lot of really pretty artwork. Other temples were built by Ramses the Great, and this temple was known for huge statues at the entrance, and it included a 66-foot tall statue of Ramses carved out of sandstone cliffs. And it also included statues of family near him that were much smaller. And so you can see just how like intricate and distinctive these statues were that were carved out of stone. So they took a lot of pride in it. But that's it for the Egyptian achievement. So I'll see you all tomorrow.